Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome everybody to the budget workshop, our annual budget workshop. Today is Tuesday, July 9th, and it is 6:40 p.m. If I could please have a moment, if you could please rise for a moment of silent meditation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, may I please have roll call?
Roll call, Mayor Cubillos.
Here.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Here.
Councilperson Mathis.
Present.
Councilperson Roman.
Here.
Councilperson Urban.
Present.
Also present for the record, Janice Jacoby, Village Clerk, in room Attorney Powell, Village Manager Alou, and Chief Max.
Okay, great. We have quorum. Thank you so much. At this moment, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move approval.
Motion's been made by Councilperson Mathis. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second's been made by Urban. All in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Great. Hearing none, we're going to proceed to the budget workshop. What I'd like to do this before we start with the budget workshop, I wanted to sort of take us sort of how we get here. I think it's important that we're all on the same page. So with that said, I want to thank everybody for being here this evening. Tonight, it's about the council and the administration coming up for the fiscal year of 2019-2020, which starts on October 1st. You all may be wondering, why do we meet in July? With that said, we meet here because before each of you, you should have a letter. The letter is dated June 28th. It's a letter that the mayor and the manager receives every single year that allows us and gives us our final tax roll. What does that mean? The tax roll allows the finance and the administration to be able to calculate what the ad valorem is going to be for the incoming fiscal year. That's how we get the dollar amount of $1,316,795. That's how that number comes to be. And it's actually a 95% of the tax roll, which is what we do because we always have a window of 5% because we never know what's really going to happen as the year comes to an end in terms of property taxes being paid. What does this do? The ad valorem allows us for the upcoming year, the fiscal year, lets us know what monies we are going to have to operate the village as a whole, and any extra monies that there may be, meaning one year to the other there's an increase, is how we will go ahead and address any existing priorities that we may have or any needs that the village had. Since 2015, we've been fortunate to have every year a double-digit increase. As you all have experienced, and you all are residents, we all are up here as well. Our property values have gone up, so when the property's values go up, the tax roll is going to go up as well. As people buy homes and they're buying it at a higher value, the tax roll goes up, and that's where the sheet you have in front of you. Just to give you an idea, since 2015, what we have done with the extra monies that has come in, which is what gets determined tonight, because we're planning for the new fiscal year. In 2016, when we had our biggest increase, I think it was an 11% increase, we took the money back then, the interim manager was Basil Binns, and the monies was used by Craig Smith to be able to do the septic sewer design on Northeast 2nd Avenue. The years after that, we've used the money to purchase the police cars. And these are some of the projects that have happened when we come to this meeting now. And why do we come now? Because now is when we're going to have an idea as to what exactly monies we have to work with. Also, what happens is that in the years past, I'll tell you why it's the second Tuesday in July. In years past, in the council that I've been on here, we've always had the budget workshop sometime during the summer. It was either June, it was July, it was August. After 2015, we tried to be a little more consistent and always have it in July. Then we realized that even though we agreed on July, well, we still needed a little bit more consistency. So actually, at the State of the Village in 2017, I proposed government night on Tuesdays. Why did I pick Tuesday? Because we already naturally meet on Tuesdays for our regularly council meeting that's chartered by the charter where we must meet. With that said, we agreed and I suggested, hey, let's have the budget workshop on a Tuesday night. Let's pick a Tuesday. We know it has to be after we get that letter, which is what the letter that you all have. And I propose a second Tuesday in July. And that is what we've been doing. This is the second year in a row that we meet on the second Tuesday in July. Same thing with the State of the Village. It's on the fourth Tuesday in August. This is in the hopes to be able to be a little more efficient when it comes to our planning, not just us, you all have a better idea as to when exactly we're going to meet, aside from the council meetings. So aside from the council meetings, the two biggest probably meetings are the budget workshop, the State of the Village, and of course the committee meetings, which if you all have attended, which most of you have, are also on Tuesday nights. So this is not only to facilitate for all of you, but for all of us. It'll mitigate absences, we hope, and better plan so that we're all on the same page. So that explains how we got here in terms of the second Tuesday in July. And we hope that it continues that way so that, again, we all can properly plan. With that said, we're here at the annual budget workshop, and what does that mean? It is an opportunity for us up here to come together and be able to have a conversation, because it's not like we can all call each other and say, hey, we really want to make this happen. So what we come together here tonight, and Councilperson Mathis, Vice Mayor Nickerson, Councilperson Urban, we all probably have arrived with ideas of what we would like to see or what we need. We have a lot of needs in the village. So we're going to come here. Number one, we're going to hear what the manager has to recommend based on what the past year has brought to us. And then second, each of us may have priorities based on what you all have talked to us throughout the year, or ideas that we may have. But hey, guess what? There's only so much money. So what we determined tonight, hopefully collectively, because this is why we have the opportunity to meet, is we come together and we say, okay, Councilperson Roman may have 3 ideas, Councilperson Mathis may have 4 ideas, Vice Mayor Nickerson may have 2 or 3, and so on and so forth, but we all have to collectively decide what are the top 3 priorities that we can really focus in on, and what are we going to have the money to be able to actually make it come to life when we focus based on needs. Whatever we cannot address in the budget is how we move forward to our legislative priorities. So when we come here and, we need more police officers, we need more police cars, we need to repair our streets, we need to repair our sidewalks, we need to have better right-of-ways, our green spaces not looking up to par, the management of the parks, all of that is what will be discussed as long as, as long as the monies is available. I can tell you for this year, it's one of the lowest years in terms of a return, meaning that this year over last year, it's 61,000 more that we have this year. So it's not a lot of money. So we're basically going to have a conversation tonight about $61,000 that we can potentially do more with, or how can we best use it to maximize the dollars. And whatever we have left that we can't is when we decide, okay, you know what, these are our legislative priorities, and that's how we determine that. And we have to do it now because session starts in September. So I kind of wanted to give you a brief. Us also Councilperson Urban's first budget meeting, so I wanted to kind of give you a rundown as to where we're at. With that said, the budget is a breathing, working document. It's going to change regularly, and it should. Money comes in, money comes out on a regular basis at the village. So I ask you to bear with us, which is why the clerk has put the most recent that we're going to work off of. And you all have received it, and the council received it last night. So we're all on the same page. We're not looking at absolutely anything differently as far as what we're looking at and what you all are looking at, which will allow us to move more efficiently in tonight's budget hearing. A couple of things I want to cover. So tonight I really want to focus on the incoming year, as it says budget workshop for 1920. It's really important that we spend most of our time, if not all of our time, on that, because this is the time that we have to do it. It's not very often that we can come together to have this kind of a conversation. I mean, we may individually contact the manager, but collectively as a team and as a group, this is really our only time that we have, because it's not like we can pick up the phone and be, hey, I want to do this. We can't do that. We have to do it in an open forum, so we're here. So I'm going to ask a couple of things. I'm going to ask that, number one, to ensure that we run as a more efficient and clear meeting, everyone must go to the podium and ask a question and address your name. I'm also going to ask the council not to speak over one another, to please address the chair, and I will acknowledge you so you can speak. I've been listening to a lot of the audios, and you can't really hear one another because we're speaking over one another. So address the chair, I'll acknowledge you, and everybody will get a chance to speak, everybody. But we gotta do it one at a time. For the residents, your opinion is most important. Please come to the podium. Please state your name and your address one at a time, and let's limit it to 3 minutes so that everybody has the opportunity to speak, because hopefully there will be more of our residents and neighbors coming in. With that said, again, I really, I don't, you know, we're a small group this evening, but please, if you have something in good and welfare, just come to the podium and address us. If you have a specific question about admin and finance, I really encourage you that if we can answer it, we will, but most likely I would ask you to email the manager or go to the next Admin and Finance Committee meeting. It's next Tuesday, July 16th at 7 o'clock, because at that meeting we should be going much more detail about our current year, because for the July council meeting, it's most likely going to be our amendment, or you guys can really hone in on the current fiscal year. So just please be mindful of that so that we can all use our time as best that we can and get all of our questions answered at the same time. All of our questions answered to the best of our ability. With that said, I want to go ahead and open up the budget workshop. I am going to first start off with the manager's recommendations, and then we will go down, and we'll start with Councilperson Erba with regards to if there is anything in particular that you have experienced or your opportunities if you're walking the neighborhood, and the same with all of us. And then after we've gone through all of us, then we will go ahead and move forward as it relates, you know, what are the numbers and what is realistic and what we can move forward as the legislation. Any questions from the council? Okay. With that said, I'll open up to good and welfare. I'll open up to good and welfare. Because I see you signaling, but I really need you to come to the podium because we gotta get these meetings properly recorded.
You said 1920, you meant 2020, right?
Oh, yeah. Did I say 1920?
Yeah.
Whew, okay.
Wow, I thought you meant like
2019-20, yeah, sorry, I apologize.
Like
2019-2020, yeah, that's the
Last 20.
Not really, I like to hear everybody talk about what they're seeing, what I'm not seeing, and I just see it. I'm like you, I'm just seeing it. Because my whole thing is, what are you giving back? To give back from last year's budget was my request. That if there is, I like this manager's recommendation, but I want to know how you came to that. Is a give back. You know that we all pay a very high, an increasingly high, an increasing rate for garbage. We know that. I think it's so separated out, it's like $360 a year. You say, okay, you divide that by 12, $360 a year doesn't seem like a lot. But it does when you're sitting there looking at garbage. Some people don't have that much garbage, like a two-family. And then there's others that have more and are abusive. Now, that we're going to advocate changing the quarterly bulk pickup. Once a quarter, our neighborhood is dirty. Once a quarter. That's good. Other cities, every week, they're doing junk. They're doing call us if you got trash to put out. Not us. We're doing it we call it the millennium way of doing it. And I hope it stays that way. That's my first one. Give back. I'm not talking about the treats, so those are sponsors. I'm talking about an actual give back of any overage, of any profit, or any leftovers. Give it back. The council boasts that we subsidize the garbage fee. I bet you get a whole lot of claps. Because that's a give back. That's your taxes going back to give back something that is always rising. The explanation about what's sent every year, yeah. And we're still a little bitty village. Can't help with property taxes being what they are. But we really can't. There are methodologies around this nation that show you come in here and try to sell your house for as much as you want. Do whatever you think you can. We ought to put a limitation so that we stay the village that we want to be and not put ourselves out of business paying property taxes. Because that's a joke. Because as soon as the bubble breaks, what happens? Those houses that sold for so much are what? They're underwater. And in El Portal, we can least afford to have an underwater city. In other words, most of the people owning property because of the way they bought it. I know that thing's not on. Because of the way they bought it, when the bubble bursts again, which it will, they're going to be underwater. You don't need to be an underwater.
He can't hear you.
I can't hear him either. I mean, that's why I know that wasn't working.
No, it's
Can
working.
you hear me?
You put it
I
You
was,
can actually hear me, huh?
I was saying it all
You're
the
good
time,
man.
but you moved it.
Oh, like that?
Yeah,
Look at that?
Yeah.
All right, I'm keeping it. But no, that's a serious issue nationwide, and it's the local council that has control over that. And what we don't want is a devaluation of our village just because some places, some housing is underwater. It's a nationwide issue. Because the bubble's gonna break, it's gonna burst again. Everybody know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, man, did I say something?
You, man.
So you
Look,
are
You
right.
don't wanna talk back at me on it.
You know, you are right, and sustainability is a huge thing. And which is why I opened it up by saying that this was the first year that it's less. Since 2015, we've had a double-digit growth, 11%, 13%, 11%. This year, our growth is at 5%. That is an indication clearly of two things. Number one, the homes are selling probably have plateaued in terms of the value. And the other component is that is people, the buying and the selling, which really compose of the same thing. But which is why it's really important that we have this meeting to better plan. Because while we have been able to buy 5 police cars, because one year we had an overage of 125,000, this year, from one year to another, it's only 61,000. So last year, our ad valorem was 1.2 million and change. This year is 1.3 million and change. So we have to be, as crafty and as creative and as clever as we can to be able to properly plan. But I want to address your property, the tax question and the garbage question, because as long as I've been on the dais, the garbage has not gone up in terms of dollar amount. It has been the same. We are overdue in getting that to be looked at, but we've been somewhat, it's a good thing that we have not just yet, because it will go up. Because this price that we pay is prices from about probably, maybe 7 years ago when it was crafted, and then we redid an amendment to the contract. And we've already been told that when it goes out for bid, our prices are most likely going to be high, because it's, everything goes up, right? So their prices are going to go up. The other thing that I think it's really important to note is the millage rate, which is a lot what you're talking about, the millage rate, and that's another meeting. But just to ease everybody here a little bit. The millage rate is at 8.3, and it has been like that for about 7 years. I recall when the millage rate was not rolled back. And for those in the audience, what that means is your taxes has not gone up. What has gone up are your property values. So you're paying more because your property is worth more. If we would roll it back, then the residents will pay what you paid the year before. But when that happens, then that village of El Portal as a government entity doesn't get that overage to do projects or priorities with. So, for example, if you pay $8,752 and next year you're going to be paying $9,100, it's not that we raised the taxes. It has been 8.3 for 6 years. What's happened is that your property value has gone up. That's the millage rate. You want the council to consider rolling it back, you got to come to the millage rate meeting. It'll be the July meeting, and that's a whole other conversation. But keep in mind that if we roll back the millage rate, then the council, then the El Portal receives less money. So basically the 61,000, if we rolled it back, we'd be at the same ad valorem, because you'd be paid the taxes based on what your value was worth last year based on the rollback. That's what the rollback rate, and Dr. Ward, you know that, you've been up here. So when the resolution comes out for the 8.3, on the same paragraph, it'll say you choose to roll it back or you choose not to roll it back. And since I've been up here, when it went to 8, it was, I think it's 7.5 when I started. And I think of my second year, the council at the time agreed to put it at 8.3, and we did it for the police department. I remember the police department came to all of us and asked us to increase the taxes, and we did. And that's when it went to 8.3, and Mayor Black at the time, she was the mayor, and I remember as clear as day, she did not want to do it. She said, we better roll it back the next year, we better roll it back the next year. It has not been rolled back. So again, that's a bit of a separate conversation, but all tied in together because it's all money. And you did not address your name and address before. And you must talk louder. Everybody's got to talk a little louder.
Dr. Lightfoot Ward, 415 Northwest 88 Terrace. Mayor, you already know. I was deputy city manager for 20 years. I already know how this stuff works. I know how it works. All I'm asking is open mind. For instance, my open mind is we've had the same accountant too many years. We've never gone out to bid it. It should be competitive every 7 years. That's on the books. It's been on the books for a long time. That in itself tells you there's another way to look at things. And all I'm asking is keep an open mind to the things that we all pay for. We all pay for it. Except the ones that don't live here, but we're not talking about that. We pay for something. And we pay our attorney very well, and we pay our city manager very well. Village manager very well. We even pay you, Jacoby. Because I advocated for it. Yeah. So I know how it works. I'm just saying, when you miss the human element, when I see that tax bill and I see that the county's millage rate has increased in my taxes, I'm not angry at El Portal. I'm looking at El Portal and I'm saying, listen, we're still a bedroom community. If other cities around this nation can maintain themselves in terms of how we maintain ourselves, then we need to look at what they're doing. I started out saying I like the manager's recommendations. I don't like them all, but I like that it's a voice in that says, we don't have to do it that high. But I don't think you all are going to vote a column. I think you're going to vote items. I think it's going to come down to items. And then the items become what the council approves. We have a general revenue. Everything on the first several pages is general revenue. That says money coming in. That's where the money comes from. It's coming in, yes? You don't want to dispute me? That's what it is, right? I didn't get that wrong. And the expense column starts after that, but it doesn't say it's expenses, but you know it's expenses. It's stuff we have to pay. We have to pay it. But who goes in and looks at it and says, why are you still paying it like that? Well, you won't know if you're not part of the ICMA. You won't know that other small cities are doing things a little bit differently. We're a small city, and I think we stay here. We're El Portal. We're not competing, we never have.
So a couple of things I also want to make clear.
Hold on there. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. I'm going to sit down in a minute.
But I want to answer
And I like the fact that we have a lot more contracted services. I like that. It says we don't have to, we can bid it and may the best person win. When I was here, up there, we had a contract with solid waste far too many years. I asked one question, what are you giving us back? You've been able to get this contract, and you've never been bid out. What are you going to give us back? You got a contract. You didn't have to bid. They didn't answer me properly, and I said, we're going to bid from now on. We're going to bid this contract out every so often. And the next people that came in, we ended up with a $260, $250 garbage bill because they wanted it. You know, you got to bid these things. You can't just let people stay in doing things. Not that they're not doing a good job, but just open government says you will give others an opportunity. I'm going to always be an advocate for the person, for the people. I'm going to always say, how do we tell them we thought about you because we thought about us. We thought about what we're paying. I know what the property appraiser is going to say. I know how he gets his numbers. I understand that. But I'm still looking at the numbers in front of us. And the numbers in front of us say, same old, same old. And you know I don't like that term. Those of you that know me know I don't like that term because it's not the same old, same old. You did wonderfully, wonderfully. I think you did wonderfully with the hurricane stuff. I think, despite all the controversy, I think, okay? And that was money we didn't see, but another hurricane's gonna come eventually. So I'm just asking a basic thing. Give it back, and give it back in the garbage. And I guarantee you, you will hear the rumblings of, wow, look at that. We had an overage, and they didn't go spend it on nothing new or try to get anything. They gave us a break because the council said, this is our money. You get we're gonna subsidize garbage. So you don't have to pay that much. It may not be over, but it won't be the 380. It won't be the 380. You subsidized it with what we had in terms of an overage. Those are my comments. That's what I had when you told me. You said you made sure you be at this budget meeting now, Doctor. Those were good comments. I'm here, and I'm saying the same thing. At the point that we catch up with the 21st century and begin to understand that small cities, we're probably going to be a decade longer before we get a business district. The minute we get a business district, you and I won't be having this conversation. Because it won't be just us, our taxpayers doing, taxpayer dollars doing. Our businesses will be doing this. They will be able to put more in. But we don't have a business district. We have one of the highest tax, if you all didn't know, we have one of the highest tax, we're one of the smallest cities, but we have one of the highest tax rates, millage rates in the county. What sense does that make? And it's been like that, and that 8.3 is still eating me up. Because it was 7 point, as you say, when I got here, and I got here long before you did. That thing is eating us up. So that's common sense stuff that everybody can understand. Why am I a small, tiny city paying 8.3? Because we don't have a business district. But we will have a business district. We just don't have one now. So our efforts should be going toward not how many more businesses not how many more houses we can build on these vacant lots, but how many more businesses we can bring in so that we can expand our business community to have a business community. And with that, I end 8.3. It's a lot, and we're one of the smallest cities in Miami-Dade County. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to address a couple of points. I think it's important. There is no voting tonight. It is a budget workshop. We don't vote. If you want to vote on the budget, it is going to be at the 2 hearings, and the 2 hearings are September 10th and September 25th. Tonight is just a conversation because everything you said, you've added value, we write it down, and that's something for the manager to work through. So we're not voting on budget tonight. That's at the budget hearings, and there's 2 of them, September 10th and September 25th. I think that's important to note. The second thing, we agree. I agree. Erwin was not here for 2 years. Erwin came back. Erwin was gone for 2 years, and Erwin came back, or his team came back. That's something that I think the manager has probably met with a lot of us. So you've been heard. And then with regards to small cities, I agree with you. And just because it looks the same, because the document is the same, it doesn't mean we're operating the same, because we really are not. I can see areas where we have so much more improvement to do, and I can see areas where we have improved tremendously. But when you look at the document, it's the same line item, looks like the same number, but how we're getting there or how we're trying to better get there is not the same. Because I do go to conferences, and today was a meeting that I had with some of the staff members about things that I've learned and things that we can do better and missed opportunities that maybe we're not capturing. Hey, that is one of the first things I do when I speak to the clerk and the manager. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know how the city does this? And there's some things that we have emulated because there are other cities that are doing things a little better than we are. And then there's other cities who emulate what we do because they like what we're doing. So that's exactly the camaraderie that's important when we're out there. So I wanted to get noted that we are doing things differently. We definitely work towards that way. All of us attend different conferences, and we come back and we share those ideas on better practices, on best practices, on how we can operate internally a little more efficiently and better. Despite some of the overages in different areas, we're going to end the year without probably a budget amendment. You know, so it says a lot about how we are trying to leverage what we have, leverage what's coming in, and better use the monies for the sake of the community. But we have to keep in mind, and trust me, I understand. I own 2 properties here. It's tough, but the majority of our ad valorem is there to support our biggest department. So it's really important to note that, and I don't think I doubt very much, including myself, that there's a single person out there that would say, get rid of the police department. Everybody wants the police. The police is our best department. That's our priority. And our ad valorem is really because we have our own police department for a small city. And it's a luxury. And it's a luxury that we all value, I value, and our residents really value. And it costs money to operate efficiently a police department. Our police department total value is half of the ad valorem. So actually a little more than half. So with that said, we have to look at everything, and a conversation I'm not going to necessarily have tonight is the sustainability of a village of this size. And to go on to your question, when you're saying business districts, the manager and I in the last 45 days have worked so hard with all 3 developers. We have met with them and spoken to them more in the last 45 days because we are working hard behind the scenes for all 3 areas. Hard and smart. And you all will be really happy that things are going to be coming down the pipeline, but you know that there's so much that happens that you don't talk about at the meetings because then we'll be here all night and then you've yelled at me because our meetings might have too long. So I try to be concise, but if you want to know information like that, don't hesitate to ask. You know, I've always encouraged the residents, you don't have to come to the meeting to ask such important questions. You know, if you contact the council and we don't respond, then shame on us. But I find it really hard to believe that if you don't contact, there's 7 of us, 8 of us up here. There's 5 members and a manager and a clerk. I'm quite sure that one of us will respond to a question that you guys have. Especially important questions like, hey, you know, Mayor, what's up with the little farm? I get a lot of text messages like that, and I answer them. And I let them know exactly, and if they don't believe me, I show them an email. So we are working. Please do not think that we are not working for a business district, because we are. We are. Definitely are. I can tell you that 100% we are. And I am on the record and I'm saying we are. And I say we because the emails go to all of us, the council responds to the clerk and to the manager. We're all in tune with what's happening. So it's very, 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 very positive. But in the interim, we have to get there. That's the most important. Anybody else we're going to welcome? Hearing none, I'm going to open it up back to the council. We're going to start off with the manager's recommendations, and we'll work our way towards Councilperson Roman with regards to some of the initiatives or priorities that you have witnessed or you've seen, or you can comment on the recommendations that the manager makes. If you don't want to go first. Okay. So the manager.
Okay, I will just say, as you all can see in my recommendations, I was very conservative in keeping things kind of just consistent with the way they've been. We are functioning, we're getting things done. As the mayor stated, we've seen some successes and we've seen some lack in areas, and we are addressing them, but I think we can do that with this budget without increasing anything. I haven't made any increases that would, raise concern, I hope, but if I have, please do state those concerns. I will state there are a few mistakes within this working document. It is a working document, and we've been going back and forth for the last few days with it. But on the police department budget, the salary increase for the collective bargaining agreement for our police officers is a 3% increase, not a 2%. And that was agreed upon last year. So we'll make that change with our CFO, but that has already been decided for the collective bargaining agreement. And we have other things within that budget. I think in that same department, under education and training, that red block is only to state that we're still working on getting numbers. But we want our officers to have proper training, education, any opportunities to get them where we need to be per our McGrath report, per our new chief's experiences and recommendations as well. So we're getting that number as well. So just know that that will change as well. And I really, whatever you all have to suggest, I'm open to hearing. I know that Councilperson Mathis has already given me some recommendations about some public works things he'd like to see happen, such as a shred day for the village, for our own records. We have quite a number of records that need to be shredded for federal or state statute. But we can also open that up to residents. That's a possibility. So I want to hear from you all. If you had a chance to see my recommendations.
I wanted to just add to that, because it kind of talks a little bit about Dr. Ward and the manager, is that while the manager has made a recommendation of keeping numbers similar to last year, it doesn't necessarily mean the players are the same. Call you Councilperson Urban.
Call me? All right. Okay, so looking at this is Councilperson Urban, looking at the building code enforcement department's budget. I just made a couple of highlights. The first would be regarding vehicle repairs and maintenance. The budget originally adopted $1,000. The projected annual down to $590, so the manager recommended at $600. I would like to advocate for maintaining in the budget the full 1,000 because of to me, 1,000 for vehicle maintenance already sounds like on the edge of almost exactly what might be needed. And so that's fantastic that we've gotten down to 590. However, I would just have a concern about not having a contingency. I'm thinking even in the event of simple air conditioning repair. I know he's not out.
It's a bare bones.
Right. It really is, but sometimes that creates its own mechanical issues as well. So I would just.
Can I just?
Yeah, please do. Yes.
Okay, so, I went by the actuals. We spent $590. So I don't expect anything major to happen to that vehicle. That's why I said, well, if there's a way to trim, I will. Also, something that, this is related to perhaps the business district being amplified and us coming up with something that vehicle, we would need to have that repaired. So we're trying to work on other things that we would need to either replace it or get some donation or something in that way. So we don't need to put that money there, but perhaps we can find another way if we go over or if there are repairs.
So I imagine I'll be advocating for the upcoming budget to remain having adopted at 1,000. See where we end halfway through next year. All right, I won't waste too much time over $400 here. I will continue, but similarly, I would be looking to, for example, code enforcement officer salary, right? For salary within a department, I would be looking at considering, say it out loud, 3% annual raises based on inflation rates, essentially, just to have a chance of keeping pace with inflation. So my wife has always counseled me throughout my entire career to advocate for myself. I've always been a poor self-advocate in terms of salary and things like this, but it's something that certainly with her experience we talk about a lot in terms of people being able to keep pace, specifically with inflation, specifically with what we would consider, raises, right? So I'd be looking at that for the calling budget as well, just a heads up on that one. I don't, there's no surprises here. I would want to ask about the PSA software training. Is it just not possible? Is that why we dropped it to 0? Is because that is no longer possible by the end of the...
No, that's not it. It's that we don't have a call for it unless that person leaves, and then we would need someone else to come in. Like we have a staffer doing it, so she doesn't need any more training.
So then with the building department new hire, the first line item.
Yeah. Now this is, she's no longer a new hire.
Okay.
So we would just take that
All
language.
right.
Remember, it's a working document. There are some mistakes that we can take the
That's
new
fine.
hire part out, but we
Okay.
can say salary for that, take out new hire.
All right, very good. I really don't have too much more than that. Everything else seems fairly straightforward. And, you know, forms and notices, things like this, we're saying we're at 500 currently. Is that what we're through the year? Again, I'll look quickly since we're talking about just a couple $100 here. Would there be anything in the forecast that indicate that, hey, you know, we would be spending any more with?
Well, no, as much as we're trying to go, you know,
Okay.
green,
right.
I'm hoping that we don't need it, but if there's.
But then I
no
think the
going
residents
in.
want to make sure that we are,
Yeah, I think
we're not citing people just because we're looking to save the paper also. Okay, all right, very good. I really do think that's just about all I have, and I know that there's more pressing issues for the unions.
A couple of things you reminded me that I wanted to point out to the council. Please speak up and speak clearly so that you can be heard, because everything we say, I want to be sure it gets recorded. And just so the audience knows that every council member is going to address their committee, and then at Good and Welfare, in the end, you all are going to have the opportunity to come up and see something that you would like to see as you're coming next year, whether it's a line item or the dollar value. I want to add to what you said. You're 100% right about that car. That car was donated to us by Miami Beach. That's another thing that the council knows and we talked about. We look to other cities to potentially donate cars, and this is a really good time to ask, because every municipality in Miami-Dade County is working on budget. I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with the mayor from Doral. I don't want to put anything out there yet, but I'm always an advocate of getting cars. We've gotten cars from North Bay Village. We almost got an SUV from Bay Harbor, but we missed the boat on that one for the police department. So I'm working on something with Doral. But it's on a super preliminary stage, mayor to mayor. I don't think he's said anything just yet, so let's not tell our wives. Officer Burrell didn't hear me. So, you know, that's relationship building, and I encourage the council. We all have different relationships. You know, this is a time to ask, because, you know, we are that small city, and they usually love us and they want to, you know, give us something. So that truck came from Miami Beach, and the manager and the chief were discussing about they're building a relationship with Enterprise for police vehicles in the future. So, but code enforcement was a donated car. I mean, we don't know how code enforcement came to be that car, and the public works. So my big thing today is not so much about what more we're going to do, but how are we going to maintain what we have and better maintain it. So yes, I agree with you totally about the public works. We need to just be mindful of it, because if we want to keep up with our right-of-ways, we need a truck, or he needs a truck. Or she needs a truck. Yes.
Just to piggyback on all of that, I have been in talks with the city of Miami Beach again with regards to a code enforcement vehicle and a public works truck, and also with the city of Miami Gardens. I think that's something before Mayor Oliver makes that next step. So.
Okay, great. Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. It's good to see everybody here tonight. So, I'll make this very quick. A couple of things. I'm the chair of Administration and Finance. And Administration and Finance is handled and operates a little bit differently than the other committees, because Administration and Finance, the manager is kind of like the co-chair of Administration and Finance in a way.
Internally, yeah.
Yeah, internally, because day to day, that's what she deals with. Her and I meet all the time, and our CFO is here every Tuesday, and both of us usually meet with him every Tuesday. That being said, when you look at Administration and Finance, there are some things that that kind of stick out to me, but those are things that have already been put on the agenda for the Administration and Finance meeting on Tuesday. They'll also come, I think they'll still come up tonight, but, so for example, Dr. Ward earlier was talking about a possible RFQ going out for the attorney for the CFO services. A couple of Administration and Finance committee meetings ago, Councilperson Roman already brought that up to put that out for an RFQ. So that's already on the agenda. It's going to be on the agenda, the clerk knows it. It's already going to be on the agenda for this upcoming Administration and Finance meeting. Also, for example, our village attorney has been interim for an extended period of time. We need to discuss that. That conversation is going to start about the village attorney on Tuesday's Administration and Finance meeting. So there's a lot of things that are coming up in Administration and Finance on the Administration and Finance meeting. But just understand that the Administration and Finance Committee, it kind of runs differently than the other committees because it's not like, Public Works where it's like, oh, you know what, like we need to deal with this out in the streets, we need to deal with this here. Administration and Finance runs internally. So I just want everybody to kind of understand that myself and the manager are kind of like co-chairs in a sense. That being said, all of my, everything that I want kind of runs through the lobbyists this year. That's what my focus is going to be. You guys remember when I was at the meeting, I brought the whole idea about, oh, can we focus on more than just the water projects? Aren't there other things so that we can every year at least come up with something? That's going to be my main focus.
Great.
Thank you.
I do want to point out, so I requested a meeting with the manager and the CFO probably like, I think 3 weeks ago. I don't even remember. Time goes by really fast. And I have to say, so when I got into the meeting, I had received the paperwork 2 days before, and I was going into the meeting not really happy. But when I got to the meeting, the manager had just about everything that I was either it was wrong or I had a question on. There was already red mark because the vice mayor had already met with the manager. So I thought that was pretty great. So I was just like, he caught it all. So our meeting was a little more brief. But yes, you caught probably, I would say 90% of everything that I've caught. And so the meeting went a little smoother than I anticipated before I walked in. But yes, so again, numbers look the same, but doesn't mean things are going to be the same. Okay, Councilperson Mathis.
I just have a suggestion with regards to gaining a little bit of revenue. I would suggest that we pay our utility bills with a credit card. It gives money back. That way, we could get some cash back with regards to paying our bills. So,
I can look into that directly with our CPA. Also, I wanted to,
That's a lot of choice.
I just want to raise about the lobbyists. That is listed is not what we pay out as you are aware. We have condensed that fee to $3,500 with one firm as opposed to the two that we had. I'm sorry, there's 3,000. 3,000, not 4,000.
Yes.
Christia, is that lobbyists, the fee that you've gotten from the lobbyists already? Like, is that, because it went down to 36, so that was one of my questions.
Yes. Right, that is what we would be paying. Actually, I need to go through this with our CPA again. I made the changes with him, but it didn't change something on here, so I will have to repeat. But yes, it would be a lower fee. It would be at 36.
Yeah, but has that been confirmed with the lobbyists?
Yes, yes.
That's the fee we got from them?
Yes, that's
Okay.
what we're paying.
For their
They're fine with
services.
that. Yeah, we
Okay.
have a contract with them for that fee.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
Yeah, that's what we're currently paying them. It went down as of January. Any other questions?
But we're projecting to end higher, which is why I'm asking.
No, we're projecting to end lower than originally budgeted because it wasn't a change until the middle of the year. So the budget started back in October, and this didn't go into effect out of January, February, March. So we had anticipated to be 48, we're going to end at 45, probably less.
But it's, okay, so it's more than the 36.
Yes, because that didn't change to the middle of the year.
Got it.
The fiscal year started October 1st, we were still in session.
Okay.
And then it got changed thereafter. I had the exact month, you'd have to ask the manager tomorrow, I have like January, February.
Yeah, that's fine.
But for the new year, it'll be 36. So that's where we're at, unless we decide to change the lobbying team, but right now we're at 36 for the incoming fiscal
Could I
year.
ask another question in regards to?
Yes.
Okay. So, we're projecting to end at 73 for the accounting services, which is higher. I'm wondering why.
The reason it's higher, well, they are also doing more services because we had a departure from from Marjorie Tapia, from the HR coordinator who was handling financials on a day-to-day, so now they are in doing those things, and so they are charging us a higher fee for their contract for more work.
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, I've been recommending that we send this for RFP for a very long time. So I think it's,
I and know that I took your suggestions very seriously, but we had to get through an audit and now so we'll be looking into that.
I'm going to kindly ask everybody in the council, if you must speak up. You must speak up.
okay.
Please, all of us, please speak up, yes. Manager, your voice is a little low, the attorney is a little low.
From where?
You must speak up, please. Anything else, Councilperson Norman, on that, on ANF?
I mean, I hate to get so detailed, but what is equipment purchases? It's at the end. It's $3,000 that's being recommended again.
And this could be for, we have some security needs that we want to address within the village hall, so I don't know how it's going to, how we can shake it out, but it may be something that we handle through police or through administration and finance, but we're expecting to do some improvements, and I'm thinking that that would, the equipment purchase, perhaps a table for the conference room, or things like that. So I don't know yet, but I will have more details and I can give you more information once we go through this with the finer tooth comb with our CFO about how I'm going to get some of these things that we want to have done addressed. But I wanted to just put that there as a place for, in case we pay for the cameras or we pay for monitors or what have you. Okay, a laptop.
Yeah, if it goes into cameras and all that stuff, I think it's important to have it itemized and lined item as to what it is.
And I will.
And you're also looking into getting rid of the holding cell areas?
Yes, I am, and that would be under, it's going to be under the,
Police?
no,
Capital Admin.
Admin and finance is going to be under capital
Okay.
improvement, so yes, I'm
Okay.
requesting,
Okay.
but there is some office changes and just some, so we can better utilize our space.
And lastly, the only other increase that I saw that stood out, it's not a lot, but I wanted to find out what it was, is the communications, telephone, AT&T, mobility, manager phone, and Comcast. It went from 2166 to 5100. On page 5.
Yes, I see it. I'm going to need to get back to you, Councilperson Roman, because my service hasn't gone up, but I don't know what the Comcast, so if I may get back to you with this information tomorrow. Once I
What is the
see
Comcast? Is that the meetings?
No, that's the cable, that's the
Internet, okay,
for the building.
for the building.
So I will check into it to see if there was some increase or what has changed with that.
Yeah, for those of you looking at it, it's the phone bill is at $32 a month, and then Comcast is at $147. Comcast is service for the internet for the village. Tom, any other question? Oh, no, I'll go together, I'll go last.
Public Works, I know we streamlined the lawn maintenance. And also the tree trimming. It's really expensive. I think that we need to really take a look at that. And I think that with regards to the tree trimming, some of these guys are hackers when they come out and they cut the trees. And I know we have an arborist that's supposed to be, my tree and a couple of my neighbors' trees were hacked and they're not happy about it. So I think that we need to put our finger on them. But still, again, it's pretty expensive. It's 15 a session though, right? Or is that for the
year.
entire year? So when they come out, what,
And they just-
twice a year?
No, you're only doing
Once
once
a year? Okay. And that's prior to hurricane, okay. I can deal with that, but, and lawn maintenance, 35, that's pretty. Custodial service. Are we not keeping the custodial services anymore? We got rid of the custodial service?
Sorry, which one are you on?
Custodial services,
Oh, yes. We have a.
right under tree trim.
Right, we have, someone who cleans the village hall, that's under admin finance. And
Oh, okay.
we have, a person who's actually a full-time employee who also does.
Okay, so-
custodial services on
So
maintenance.
this needs to be moved?
Yeah, it should
Okay.
just take it out, because we don't have that.
Okay, we already talked about solid waste, recycling. These are franchise fees. Again, I'm talking to Miami Beach and Miami Gardens with regards to the truck and the car. Fresh Public Works.
Councilman, we can't hear you.
I'm thinking out loud, sorry.
I can tell.
And the only thing that I would add is, I had spoken to the manager with regards to having a shred day for not only the village, but the residents. That would help alleviate some of the stores that we have and get rid of some of the records from 1963. We're getting quotes with regards to having one of the big shred trucks come out and people can just bring their stuff. And I think 2 of the companies also give you a certification for destruction. So I'd like to do it at the end of August. So.
No, I think that's a great idea, just get the cost to the manager. Anything else on Public Works?
Are we ready for a hurricane?
Yes, we're hurricane ready. Yeah, and we're having a
And we have a new
resiliency workshop.
employee too.
Yes.
We have a new employee. He's great.
Yes, we have a new Public Works employee, Public Works maintenance, his name is Jose Villela. And so far, he's working out beautifully. It's been a week. I'm pleased with what I've seen so far. As in terms of Councilperson Mathis, your concerns about the tree trimming and the lawn maintenance, I hear your concerns. Over a year ago, when I did an assessment of what we were paying for our many different service
Right.
providers,
I remember.
it was more than that. So we have a contract with Mitchell Lawn, and they provide our arbor services. I'm willing to look at, to consider other people if you feel that this is pretty high. We did try an alternative of, instead of having them chip during the time they did it last year, they chipped, and it took a very long time. This year, we did it to coincide with the bulk pickup, and I'm hoping that, that would come out cheaper. I mean, I know it was a problem, and people complained about it being out on the street a lot, but it was for the purpose of utilizing the waste management contract that we have that really did alleviate a lot of a big price tag for that. We are a tree city with a very big canopy, so, but if you have some concerns about the way your trees are trimmed, please let me know so I can discuss that with the arborist. It's the same two men who go out the entire village and do all of the trimming.
So, I actually have a lot of comments about public works. One of the things that I have talked a lot about with the manager is, somebody had this great idea years ago about all the things we have in this community, but the maintenance to it wasn't really factored. And we really need to take a look at that. Because if we've reached a point where our doggy-doo stations are dilapidated, the parks don't look so great, and our right-of-ways, in my opinion, don't look so great either. The median on North Miami Avenue. I mean, I've had all these conversations already with the manager, and when I see these prices, my heart has palpitations too. It probably wouldn't have it, and everything looked great. I know we used to have neat cuts, and I know we used to have Big Daddies, and I just don't know if maybe things were newer and fresher and prettier then, but I can't say that what irks me, and what I'm concerned about, and I've mentioned it to the manager and told her I'd bring it up tonight, is that it's code enforcement, right? So we are gonna go cite somebody for the roof, we're gonna go cite somebody for their driveway, but the Village of El Portal's driveway and roof and rotunda need it. So I think we need to have a line item with that, because how is that being budgeted and how is that being managed? I've asked the manager a few times, I want the rotunda pressure cleaned. It's not acceptable to tell our neighbor we don't have money when we expect, I'm expected to do it, I've been cited. So it really, there needs to be a line item. I know we're trying to be conservative, and I know we need to be, but parks need to be maintained. The doggy-doo stations need to be maintained. Our little library needs to be maintained. It's great to have ideas, but everything ages. So we have to have a plan, and I don't see that in Public Works. When Councilperson Roman brought up about the equipment, I wanted to add to that, this is an old building. We had to replace the roof. The government, El Portal is an entity that's it's a living, breathing thing too, where it's got to be taken care of. And if we don't take care of it, it's going to fall apart, and it's going to start looking dilapidated, because we are going to be 82 years old this year. And a lot of these things that were put in 10 or 11 years ago. I look at the bus benches that were put in 5 years ago. They need to be cleaned. I look at the trash cans that were put in also 4 years ago. They need to be cleaned around them. So that needs to be factored in as a cost, because there is a cost to sustaining the village. And if we don't factor that in, appropriately, then we're going to continue to kind of look that way. And that's really been a big conversation with the manager. So while we are working on other areas for other monies, but that needs to be accounted for, and I don't see it anywhere in here in Public Works as far as it being accounted.
Well, it's not, as far as line item goes. Again, we do have a new employee. He's really enthusiastic. I did have a really quick sit down with him, and I told him that we needed to do inventory of everything that pertains to Public Works. That means the garbage cans, That means the doggy do stations, all of that, and what needs to be repaired and replaced, we need to get pricing for that and so forth. So I think with this new employee, I think that we're going to see the things that should have been getting done, but the previous.
But there is a cost to it. There is, I
Right.
mean, I can't even say how many text messages I get about the Sherwood Forest Park with regard to the fountain, the lights, you know, the mall, something. So I really think that, you know, the doggy do stations, because they have not been properly maintained, probably need to be replaced.
So that's
So
what-
there needs to be,
That's what the inventory was all about.
and I think it's going to be an amount that needs to be line item, because it's not something that's probably going to be, you know, $100 or what have you, but we need to account for our own inventory in this town and properly keep up with it, because people forget, or our Public Works may forget, you know, we have the Little River Estates, we have the Nature Trail, we have the Tot Lot, and we have Sherwood Park, and they require maintenance.
What I will do is I will make sure that at the next
I mean,
budget setting that we have, we will have
okay.
an itemized
Yes.
accounting of either a clear estimate, or, I don't want to say guesstimate, but a guesstimate of what replacement and continued maintenance would cost.
I agree with that, and you're right, Mayor Cavillos. You and I have met on this on a number of occasions, and I agree, we have to put some money into maintaining our parks. And so I appreciate that Councilperson Mathis is taking the charge to do an inventory with our new employee. And I think that's a good start, but I really want to see something happen with that as well. I agree, we should hopefully find some funds to put to parks maintenance.
And to be clear, so Mitchell Lawn Service comes once a month, is that correct?
Come every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks, okay, he comes every 2 weeks, and do they go around and guess what they're gonna do? Like, how is that worked out?
No, they have a list, they cut the right-of-ways, they turn back any bushes, they clean Sherwood Forest, they do the medians, they do all of our public right-of-ways in terms of many things. They also fix sprinklers, they don't fix the fountain though. And then our staff goes out, well, there's to go out and do whatever needs to be done while in between those 2 weeks.
Well,
Again, one of the reasons why we have a new employee is because the previous employee was tasked to do these things and it didn't come through. So again, I'm asking
okay.
my colleagues to give us an opportunity to
Okay.
show you what.
May I add one more thing? The Village Hall. We had the front beautifully done, the trees died. That's another component. It's not just the Tot Lot, it's not just the Nature Trail, it's not the Little River Estates Park, and it's not just Sherwood Park, it's also our own landscape.
Right.
Yes.
And I would recommend, when adding to the landscaping, that we try to go as local as possible, native, because it's easier to take care of. And, you know, when we get too fancy, that's a little bit more expensive. So if, you know, whomever you're looking to do landscaping work, if it's Mitchell, that you can ask him to go native. It also goes with our sustainability.
Absolutely.
And then, again, I look at the little numbers because everything adds up. But the gloves, trash bag, batteries, keys, it doubled. I mean, that's what we're spending, that's fine, but I'm just curious as to if you know why that's doubled.
No, I do not know why it doubled, but I know that it's used quite a bit, that we are always buying more and more trash. I have to check into it.
I'd like for us to keep inventory of what we buy and keep an eye on our inventory, lock things up.
I'll get back to you with that as well.
Does the cleaning company come with their own supplies, or do we provide the supplies?
We provide the supplies.
Because we didn't have the cleaning company last year, so maybe
Oh, so
that's
that
why
could
there's more
be-
gloves? Maybe
Well,
that's why
we use the gloves too, that's true.
Public Works, yes, Public Works. Anything else on Public Works?
I know we talked about, or I saw an email about the streets and the sidewalks. That's always, I mean, to me, in addition to our parks and, you know, our streets and our sidewalks are just looking horrendous. And, you know, so if anything, I think, you know, my priority, I would like for our priority to be public works in this next coming year. Because I think this is where we're seeing the, you know, just, we're not seeing the dollars. We're not seeing, you know, where we are paying high taxes. And, you know, we like to live in a village that not only feels good, but it also looks good.
If I may, about the sidewalks and the streets, we did the assessment, we had Craig Easter do that streets and roads assessment and as well as the sidewalks. And they, you know, pointed out each section and what it would cost. We can't afford that, but we can ask for funding and utilize some of our CITT funding now for some of those repairs. In fact, we are planning a repair. I'd like to, I will discuss this further with Councilperson Mathis and the members of the council about one area that could benefit from some resurfacing. And we are also limited and restricted in some of the ways we have to spend that money. But I think we can utilize some funds to resurface 89th and 90th between Northeast 2nd and Northeast 1st.
And also, I did speak with Richard and Eli to see if there was something that we could possibly get from the state with regards to helping facilitate
But, and
some
that
of
goes,
these things, which,
yeah, you're right. And that goes to the lobbying discussion. We had already decided to ask for some, to diversify our ask for this year because our streets do need as much help as we can get. So we're definitely challenged with that, and we're looking to get more funding for that.
And
It's on
I'm
the-
newly sitting underneath streets, so board, so I am going to be learning a lot more, and I will be sure to bring it, because that is something that is definitely of interest to me.
We are not going to get into that right now. Okay. I want to be really clear about something. So, the manager made a point that's important that I want to point out, and that is about, I think, 2 council meetings ago, we asked the manager to go to Craig Smith. So if you see a high number, that's why. When you go to Tallahassee, you have to have skin in the game. They're not just going to give you money. We've received money one time, but they have to also see that we're sort of doing our part as well. So we asked the manager to go out and get a real assessment of what it would cost to fix our streets and fix our sidewalks. So that's something that we can lobby for, as opposed to, we can't go lobby for parks, really, that's more of a grant. And CITTs is funding that we can use for sidewalks and streets. So now we can go into Tallahassee and we have a professional assessment done by an engineer firm that can say, this is how damaged we are and this is how our streets have been greatly impacted when Miami Shores closed their streets. Because when they closed their walls and their streets, it tremendously impacted 90th Street and it tremendously impacted Northeast 4th Avenue. And when I looked at the numbers, Northeast 90th Street, which I've been saying for 10 years, that has been an impact because Miami Shores closed, everybody traverses to 90th Street. So we do have a professional thing. If you want to see it, ask the manager. But we have a professional layout street by street of what it's going to cost to resurface that and resurface the sidewalks. But that's something that we can use CITT funding for. But yes, in terms of streets and sidewalks, and I also want to point out is one of the reasons that you all have not seen us do more like we used to for our sidewalks and streets is because the septic to sewer project that we're still working on, when that septic to sewer phase 1 design contract was signed, we had to do a collateral, and the collateral dollars were the CITT money. And because of that, we were unable to use those dollars. But because that project is still on hold and we are diligently working with the school, Councilperson Mathis went to a board meeting. We've met with the school board, a district, a regional superintendent about the easement. So that's still a working, we should have better answers in July. But that CITT money was held, and we couldn't fix certain potholes. We couldn't fix certain sidewalks. So that's why you guys haven't seen that. But now we're beginning to do a little bit because we're going to go through another funding. But I wanted to just point that out because it's important that hopefully it'll help with streets and sidewalks. Dollars, yes.
Nancy, something to you about the streets. Again, you mentioned the surfaces are really terrible. We also have a lot of flooding. You know that that's also a stormwater issue. And resurfacing is one thing, but to fix the real issue is the stormwater drainage needs to be put in place. So we have been asking for funds from Tallahassee, and you know that's also something that we've been working with Craig Smith on, as well as Pinoni, and doing stormwater drainage and trying to get funding for that. So once that's done, then you can put in better roads, and they would be more lasting and efficient. So these are all tied together, but we're able to utilize some of our funds now that we don't have the collateral set aside.
Anything else on Public Works?
I do have one little tidbit. I've been working on a program with Dash, the Design and Arts High School, with regards to painting or wrapping the fire hydrants in the image of birds, and I think that that's going to come to fruition.
Well, you had them painted in red, so I guess there'll be birds
I
now.
didn't
But
paint them red.
that was your initiative.
Mm-hmm.
The fire hydrants are red.
Painted red.
That
Not
was
me.
the
That was,
Aileen.
that was
Huh?
Aileen. That was
That's
not me.
Haley.
I don't remember that. Okay.
Mhm.
I thought it was Griffin. Okay. Okay. In closing with Public Works, I have to also say this. So Christia is also the third manager that I've asked to go to Miami Shores and ask them, the manager, if they would pay us impact fees for the damage they've done to our roads. Because everybody says how beautiful Miami Shores looks, how great their streets look. Well, ours would too if our streets were closed, but they're not. But they refuse to give us any dollars. The third manager that's gone there. It was Jason, Basil Benz, and Christia. Anything else in Public Works? Okay. Councilperson Roman.
Okay, so I will go over public affairs. There's a couple of items that I want to bring up for discussion. So July 4th, I did an estimate of the cost. It's a little bit over the 2,000. I anticipate that going up because we ordered food for 65 people based on the attendance that we had last year. And we had just a tad bit. Well, we probably had about the same amount of people. We just had a lot of people that took double, that fed themselves up. So we probably need to control the food a little bit better in the future, but I do think we should increase this to maybe 23. And then for the 5K, we actually brought in 2,250 in sponsors. I want to know where that is showing in the budget, sponsorship money that came in. And we also we had sponsors. So in reality, out of the budget, the 5K, according to, paid for itself. There should have been only maybe $200.
Okay.
So that I would like to somehow, for public affairs, I think it's important to include the sponsors, and I think we've asked that in the past.
I understand. And I'll be sure to sit with our CPAs to make sure that's included. And that we have some space for that.
Yeah. And so we can leave it at 2,500 because again, the sponsorship is, but and we can always move that money somewhere else if we need it. But I like to see the sponsors. I also, I mean, the Miami Shores Gala takes place regardless of who the mayor is, correct?
Yeah,
Make it
yes.
as well.
Yeah, I would like to budget for that. I think it's good to, network with and support our neighbors. And that, I believe, was 1,500, I don't know why I said 1,600, but, I mean, it's just $100 difference, but the invoice that I saw was for 1,500. And, Mayor, we had 2,000 for the state of the village, and then we applied some of that to the Miami Shores Gala. We have 1,600. Is that enough for the state of the village?
So, well, I'll wait till you finish, because I had a few comments.
Okay. And then, I don't know how we got projected for the Christmas event. I don't know if that's based on last year, and we only budgeted 1,000, so I'd like to know where that $3,000 came from.
You know, I did sit with the CFO yesterday and asked him to break down these events so I could understand this better. Sadly, I don't have a lot of information, so I'm going to ask for more of a detailed accounting for each event so that we can all share in that. I did request that because I didn't understand it either. He did tell me that he's put it, like it's the village's, like every Christmas activity involved, and I said, no, we need to separate the village, you know, our employee Christmas party from the actual Christmas
Absolutely.
activity, from that
Yes.
Christmas tree. So it may be just the lump of it all, and I did ask for that, I just haven't gotten it yet. So I will break it down for each event so that you can see that.
Okay, yes. And then for Arbor Day, I think so the 2214 is a little bit more than what I had in my numbers. So I'd like to take a look at where he came up with the 2214. I'm good with 2,000 for that event, but I want to look at where he came up with 2214. And then, you recommended here Halloween party 200 for candy only.
That's
So-
how it was last year.
That's because I
didn't go one way or the other on it. I left it as that because we did that last year. I wanted to not, I wanted to see where you all stand. Are we doing too much? You want to pull back on something, put some things somewhere else? I don't know. But I just replicated what was last year because
Got it,
it's
okay.
easy.
And then, the website maintenance, that is doubling, so,
Because we still need to do some
ADA.
things to it.
uh-huh,
ADA and possibly some security, so I
Okay.
just to, have a cushion in case we need to do something more with security for it as well.
okay,
But this will be a one-time, I'm hoping,
okay.
lifetime.
All right, our website, I think we discussed that it should be a little bit more current. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of public affairs ago meetings, we asked to get a estimate or, for a quote to get our website completely updated so that it's friendlier. So did we get that?
We have another thing come up with the website that I made more priority, it was the ADA compliance. I did get some quotes for doing the rest of it, I just have not implemented them yet. I wanted to get some things situated first, and then, but right now we're kind of putting a hold on some, like taking the videos off of it, just to get it compliant, so then we can have more of a defined idea about what we want to be on the website, what is appropriate. And I'll bring that forward to admin and finance as soon as that's finished.
That's public affairs.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
public affairs.
So that's it, I mean, I have my personal opinions about the other events, but I'll open it up to the mayor and anybody else that may want to add.
So, public affairs is sort of that elephant in the room. I think, so I'm gonna go back a little bit here. About 4 years ago, when I had met with a few residents and we brought forward the Women's Club, there was a vision there. You know, the late Libby Bowen was a pioneer here and did a lot for the village. As a matter of fact, the dais we sit on was monies that she raised. When I first got elected and I met her, this 85-year-old lady really inspired me, because in my mind, if women of that time did so much, we could do so much more, I believed. If you look at how other municipalities are set up, there is a nonprofit that is parallel with the municipality. There's a nonprofit that is lined up with the municipality because with nonprofits, companies generally will donate monies because it's a more viable ending than it is a municipality, although we get a lot of sponsors and so on and so forth. With that said, the intent of the vision that I initially had for them was exactly that, so that in lieu of this public affairs, they should be raising the dollars. And that's a conversation that I want to bring back up, because Miami Shores Alliance, I don't know Biscayne Park off the top of my head, and Miami Lakes Visionary Organization, they have all worked with organizations that raise dollars. They host events, they raise dollars, and they host the community events. That was my initial and real intent with the Women's Club. Initially, I was going to call it the Libby Bowen Foundation. It was something that Erwin and I had been working on. But that really needs to be the component. Because if we are able to raise dollars and we are not a nonprofit, a nonprofit could raise that much more. It is my vision that this budget, which used to be about 50,000, we keep scaling back, and in my opinion, that's not fair. It's not fair because, as Anna Ward said, you know, what are we giving back based on the taxes that's paid? Well, it's the community events. And what are community events? Community events mitigate public safety. And all in all, if there's one thing I can say about Claudia, is that the civic engagement that exists today is because of the community events that we've been having for so many years. If we didn't have all these community events, you all wouldn't know one another. We have met friends at 5Ks. We have met friends at the art fair that are now really good friends. All the community events that have been hosted is completely a result of the civic engagement through the community events. And I can say it because in 2008, 2009, and 2010, it's like nobody really knew anybody. And I think it's great that everybody knows everybody's name. So I say that to say that, as I know Mayor Van just got back from vacation, I'm going to see her tomorrow morning on another matter, but I do believe that this is a conversation, and it's a missed opportunity for the organization and for the village of El Portal. Because if you ask me as a resident, I think some of you would agree with me, and I'm not a parent, although I parent a lot of kids in the community. I've had conversations with Miami Shores Village. Many of you have asked, why can't we use their aquatic center? Well, we can, but there's a cost to it. That should be public affairs. If we had a budget for public affairs, it should pay for something that you all are, another service that you all are going to get. It should not be the community events. The community events should really fall under a nonprofit, and it's even better for tax purposes in terms of like dollars that are being donated. It's better managed and all of that good stuff. So we don't have to cut back any of the events. I think we should have all the events. And I think all of you would agree, I believe you all would agree, and most of you will agree that a lot of these are great. It's for your kids, as far as it's time that we can hang out, we can chit chat, and the community events are designed for community policing. It's your time to get to know your police officers. I mean, that's the time that they're always there. So that's my thoughts on public affairs. It's not something that's gonna happen overnight. I think it's unfortunate how we have sacrificed it because we've made a commitment as a council that, we're gonna take back here and give over there, and I agreed, and we all agreed on that last year, but it's unfair. I agree with you, Lily and Pico, we should not run out of food. I agree, but everything, we're trying to operate on a budget, and Vamati has handled every event like to the T. And her follow through was excellent. Like, we have a list, we all know what we're doing, but we operate on a budget. And I do believe that if this was run through a nonprofit like the Albertal Women's Club, which is really one of the huge reasons why I wanted to bring them back. The Albertal Women's Club back in the day, most of us probably weren't alive because they did a lot of stuff in the 30s and 40s. They raised so much money for the police department. They were so engaged with Citizens Crime Watch. Again, the dais, if they were able to raise the money to put this dais here, I mean, it's pretty impressionable in my opinion. So I think that's a greater conversation, but it's a conversation that needs to be had. Because I think that Councilperson Roman said about us being out there in the community, being more visible, creating more of a relationship with those around us so that we can bring back better things. That's part of us being out there. That would go under public affairs. Public affairs should be a sustainability town hall that I want to have in the next couple of weeks. Public affairs is defined where we inform the public of the affairs of the government. And yes, events do that, but it would be better served at a town hall, better served at something of that nature that's in an informational setting. So that's my thought process. It's all part of civic engagement, which civic engagement was a big component to me, which is why the Women's Club exists, is to be a civic engaged in our community. So that is a greater conversation because I know Councilperson Roman were operating on peanuts here to be able to manage the budget, and you did really well. You raised good money. I mean, the 5K was great. The 4th of July would have been better if we wouldn't have run out of food. And these things break my heart, but we have to really make decisions, and I think a conversation needs to be had. I will have a conversation with Maribel Fruitstone. It will not be tomorrow. I'm seeing her in another matter. But I will mention to her that I'd like to meet, and maybe we can open this up, and it'll be a meeting and so on and so forth. But I really think there's total missed opportunity. I think there's a huge opportunity there, and these events could be like amazing for all of your kids, for all of us, and I think we're completely missing the opportunity. I look at 4th of July, I mean, why aren't we doing like a firework thing with Miami Shores and Biscayne Park? Like why does it have to just be us, Why is it that when I'm driving down Northeast 2nd Avenue, the signs stop right at 90th? I mean, that sort of annoys me, Like, why can't we just work together and collaborate and say, hey, you know what? By the way, those signs don't cost a lot of money. Why can't we just raise dollars or get a vendor to sponsor us $5,000, and guess what? There's uniformity down Northeast 2nd Avenue. But these are conversations that have to be had when you develop relationships, and we can do this with money raised, and companies will donate money to this types of things. But you gotta be a nonprofit.
And again, it goes back to civic engagement as well. I mean, there's residents that know people who own companies that could donate time, resources, and all that as well. So.
And I think the last component, which probably everybody in the diocese is probably going to shake their head, but then it provides manpower. Then all of a sudden we can work all together because, I have a meeting with the chief and Christia on Thursday, a list of things, and one of them is kind of how we used to operate before, and, with the flyers and all that, and that's one of 11 things we're going to talk about. But, that was the whole objective and mission. Because you imagine that, even if it's 5 women or 10 women, that's 10 different bodies. That's 20 hands. That's a lot. And everybody knows somebody. And all of these kids are getting to the point that they're going to start being the ones that are going to be doing. I mean, how great is that? I mean, all these women have kids. Your kids are already getting a little older. It's going to be your kids helping putting the events together. I mean, that was the objective. That was the whole point. And I think that would be the most amazing thing. If Ty starts, Ty puts the little Christmas caroling thing. I mean, how cool is that? Or all of a sudden you see all these kids that are now becoming 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, and they're the ones working with the police officers and us putting the event together. That was the mission, that was the goal. So it's my goal to hopefully get it to that. I think it's really important, and I think it'll alleviate the dollars. We can use this dollars somewhere else and build a camaraderie and collaboration. And that's my 2 cents on this. Oh, and then I do want to say something. Well, no, let's go. One at a time. Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Okay.
Vice Mayor Nickerson, go. Vice Mayor Nickerson, go.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Thank you for what you're saying, what you were saying. I think all of us up here agree with what you were saying. When it comes to the, and I think also we have to get the temperature of the community, right? And because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I recall, the reason why a lot of things were cut out was because there were individuals that were in the community that were saying that we were spending too much at one particular time on public affairs.
Well, that's exactly why it got cut back,
Yes,
because
exactly.
it was Hurricane Irma and we cut everything back. And we responded to the residents, too many events, too much money,
Yes.
so we literally cut the budget like a quarter, if not more.
So, I had a few questions. One was the League of Cities dinner. I think it should be, there should be a manager recommended budget of, I'm thinking of anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000. I don't know how much it is for that. I think that's a good event, and that's something that should be budgeted for next year.
Well, that was what I was gonna answer questions that I saw on social media. So, yes, the village was a $5,000 sponsor. The village paid $3,000. The difference came from my discretionary.
So if we're going to continue to be a $5,000 sponsor, then we should keep that in mind. It shouldn't come to your discretionary $2,000. Because not only because, Madam Manager, because our mayor is the president of the League of Cities, but the League of Cities is an organization that includes all of the cities of Miami-Dade County, and having those connections and that networking and just being a part of that has brought great prestige to El Portal, and those are important relationships to continue to maintain. So I think that that should be budgeted for next year.
I agree.
No, I
Can I add one thing? Because we have residents that may not see the value, and I think it's important that they know something, because Councilperson Mathis said something. The clerk emailed the entire council and asked the entire council to be if they wanted to select a board to be on. One of the things that I have said over and over to the council is that this is not about me, it's about El Portal. So the opportunity that I have is to appoint members of the council, of different municipalities, by the way. There's probably 25 committees that are Dade County committees. And I have the opportunity to appoint electeds to those boards. And that means that we have a voice on decisions that are made in Miami-Dade County at committee level before it even gets to the commission. And even though you all say, well, that's Miami-Dade County, yeah, we're in Miami-Dade County. So it impacts it. And that's how Mamadi got on Main Streets. And Anders is on the long-term planning for transportation. I sent it out 3 or 4 times because to me, I wanted to get everybody on a board, to get you all out there on boards. The attorney sits on the Attorney Advisory Council. And then I'm not allowed, there's no positions for the manager, for the clerk, but if there was, I would have. But to me, it's to get them out there. To me, it's to maximize the opportunity because we do pay dollars, and I get it. And there has to be a value in return, and the value is that, hey, you go and you sit in committees and you find out what's happening, you come and let us know, because maybe there is something we can do better. But it means you have to actually get out there and show up and be there. So all the committees are now taken. I think I sent one last email like a week ago, so now they're all taken. But it's a missed opportunity. It's an opportunity, and I can't do this next year. I mean, I only had an opportunity to do it one time. So I appreciate all those that got on it. But that's just one of the things that could really potentially help us.
And just a couple more things, very quickly. I know that you have residents that want to speak also. But the Easter event, I think that we should budget for it for next year. And the the last thing, and this is something that, we can decide at a later time, but I think the art fair is something that we should seriously consider. I think that was one, the art fair to me, the art fair and Halloween were like our two largest. I know you have the traditional 4th of July, but as far as size and as far as like the eyes on El Portal, that art fair was magnificent. Magnificent. Yeah.
Talking to
Oh, I'm sorry.
well, one at a time.
I'd opt for the art fair, and again, the reason Halloween went the way that it went was because we were catering to a lot of people that do not live in the village.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying either or. I think we should. That's why I say we can make a decision. You don't have to make it tonight, but I think either or because Halloween brought out a lot of people from the community. Everybody was up there walking up and down the street, talking to each other, meeting each other, communicating. But the art fair, I think, just overall throughout Miami-Dade County, brought so many eyes on El Portal. That's super important. So that's all I think.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Anything else from the council?
Yes, can we budget for the 5,000 role models this year, and as opposed to letting it come up and then we have to scramble to get money for it?
Well, it has been budgeted, and it just was not, we did not RSVP. So
It was budgeted last year?
it was budgeted. Yeah, it's been budgeted the last couple of years, but we haven't received reminders or RSVPs.
And if the council does not want to budget for the same, I will use my discretionary funds.
I'm speaking louder for what?
For SAVE.
For
the-
SAVE,
The,
Champions of Equality?
Champions of Equality.
Well, do you want to say what that's a little about before we even consider it?
Champions of Equality is, I'm sorry, the residents don't know. Champions of Equality is active members of the community on all fences that are recognized by SAVE, which is a human rights organization here within Miami-Dade County. I'm a recipient of it. The mayor was a nominee. You were a nominee, right? No, I'm sorry. I'm a recipient of it, and it really roots you into the community because of it puts an impression on civic duties for people within the community.
I'm not familiar with it, so.
You've never been to it?
No. So-
Okay, SAVE is an organization that it's what is it called? A PAC. They're a PAC, a political PAC. But what they do is they basically have people nominate various people within the community that have contributed to education or
They nominate them for what?
for their contribution to the community for education, medical, elected officials who've really given back to the community. And it's a chance to showcase SAVE, but also the people that are doing the grunt work and no one notices it. You know
Who
how
they
we have,
nominated? I just don't understand.
it's called Champions of
One at a
Equality.
time.
So is it a nomination to
Speak in the microphone.
is it a nomination to a board? Is it a nomination to what?
No, it's a nomination of people who are behind the scenes that are doing the legwork and contributing to the community. SAVE showcases them and puts them on a platform and gives them recognition for the hard work that they do. It's almost like the League of Cities at the end of the year. We get the nominations for, the President's Award for the most attendance, or, the member that's doing the most fundraising and so forth. So it's that on a different level.
So you become a recipient, you receive an award, and basically you're recognized as a champion of equality for the organization, which is towards human rights. One of the reasons why we attended that event this year is because there's a big part of our community that is I forget the acronym now. So with that said, that's, that's why part of it, so hence I think Councilperson Mathis is asking us to consider that there. But that organization is all about human rights, it's all about, co-sponsoring for
Bills that go up to Tallahassee.
yeah, bills that go to Tallahassee, or even local that has come to us about banning, I'm trying to think that word, I can't think, like banning
Conversion
therapy, and the other one that came to us about supporting a spouse that's not married and giving them the rights to insurance, things like that. So that's what that organization does. That's the gist of that organization. And the ones that have, the recipients that have become a champion of equality have been either elected leaders that have taken a stance in their community, or you have the other people that just donate a lot of money and raise and contribute to that organization in that capacity, which allows them to showcase who they are. So that's safe. Again, we're not voting on anything. You can actually put on there, and then on the budget hearing is when we'll say yea or nay. Okay. Any other questions? That's your committee. Did you have another question?
No.
Councilperson. All right, public affairs. We're done with it. Okay. I will speed through. I have two. I have planning and zoning, and I have public safety, which I'll leave last. So planning and zoning is interesting, and I'm going to be really excited about planning and zoning next year because that's where we plan, and we are moving forward with projects that can really be a positive impact in our community. Placerbia, who is Juan from Placerbia, is our consultant. You see his fees have gone up a little. We use them a lot. He comes to our town halls. He keeps us in tune of our code. He's really keeps us in abreast of like things that we have to change. He has like the manager and I towards the committee, like just things that are going to happen. I could tell you, I could tell you, and I encourage you guys. If you do not go to planning and zoning committees, you need to, because there's a lot happening. A lot. I'm not going to get into it. It's going to cost us a little money, but it definitely is going to generate revenue. There are some businesses that want to come forward in Northeast 2nd Avenue, Dr. Ward, that you may be very interested, and it's not at the sanctuary. The sanctuary is another area that we're working on. So the biggest and the only fees that we have there is Placerbia. 78 is probably a little conservative because the busier we are, the more we need him. And the more we need his guidance and his expertise to be able to ensure that we are planning properly for all of the areas that we are working on. We are working on 3 areas. We're actively working on the Little Farm, the annexed area, the sanctuary, and another project that may come up in Northeast 2nd Avenue. So that really sums up planning and zoning. I'm not going to make any recommendations. Does the council want to make any recommendations on planning and zoning as far as education or training? Okay, so let's go to public safety. I'm going to ask the chief if you want to come up and say anything during public safety.
If you have a question for me on any of them, sure.
This year we have $61,000 that is going to be our overage, if you want to call it that. It's going to be our increase in property values. I'm going to ask the council if we would consider, even though I know it's a residual expense, to add in a police officer. A police officer starts at 35, I think 35.5. So I'm going to ask if we would consider adding a police officer to our current roster by using portion of the funding. That's going to be my ask for public safety. I think as I move along down, I think that we are, I think in every other area we're fine in terms of like let me rephrase that. I think that we're on budget to where we're going to have calculated. We can always want more and do more. I do know that we are in the midst of negotiation. I saw emails with the attorney and the manager about a potential take-home car. So, I mean, we're working on things for the police department. But as we all know, and the biggest thing in McGrath was shift coverage. So if my ask is to add 1 police officer to the roster. And then today I forwarded an email because I realized when I met with the manager at Prestia that you all are not receiving some emails from the Florida League. So there was the manager and the clerk, so I wanted to make sure I sent it to you as well. I know the webinar already passed, but I think it's important. There are things that come up that we all need to be aware of, and it was a training that didn't cost anything. You can have Officer Burrell, Officer Sharp, or all of you can do it as part of a staff meeting. So I'll make sure that the manager is going to check into, you know, why you guys are not getting those emails. But I was part of a webinar this morning that I thought was fantastic. One of the things that I want to mention before I close on public safety is, to the residents, this is important. Hacking and ransom hacking has become a really big problem, as you all have read it in the media. So we are taking as many measures as we can. I shared with the manager today that the Department of Homeland Security has a new department called CISA, which is Cyber Infrastructure. And they're designed to collaborate with local agencies to come in and assess our vulnerability. When it's a smaller town, city, or village, it's at no cost. And I do believe that it's very important, because imagine if we got hacked for 5 days or 4 days. I mean, just imagine that downtime. So I say that to say that we are talking about it, which is why the managers shared back, which is why we, as far as the website, let's not do anything more until we test our vulnerability to see where we're at, because that's really a big thing, a big component that we have seen all these articles that I have sent to the manager and to the clerk that I've asked to share with all of you guys, or maybe I didn't, but I'll make sure that they share with you guys. But it's all over the media, from Key Biscayne to Atlanta to Riviera City Beach, and I'm going to share something with you all. You know, we worked pretty fast, but our website got hacked. And the manager, the clerk, and I, we worked like in seconds. You were not on board yet. In seconds, it got hacked, and we were able to get it back, and it was diverted to another site. So that was a small experience that really didn't cost us anything at the time, but we just have to really be prepared to better prepared. And having the vulnerability assessment is going to be really, really a key component. Something I also shared that I'm going to bring up today, that I'm going to talk about at the July meeting, is right now our email blast that the manager, the clerk sends out, is we might just keep it right now to the meetings, because we need to figure out where we're at right now with all of the vulnerability. A lot of it comes from emails, a lot of it comes from text messages, a lot of it comes from voice messages. They call it like phishing, or they call it like spear phishing. They'll send you an email and it like gets your attention, and then you open it up and all of these things. So when the clerk sends out those email blasts, we get a lot of emails back. People that may say this and may say that, so we don't want to be in a position where, so we're going to test our vulnerability assessment at no cost right now. That's one of the part of our meeting that we're going to have on Thursday. And then we'll see if there is going to be a cost to be able to secure what we have. So that kind of answered your question a little bit on the website, as far as, you know, why we're not going to get so fancy with anything right now. Let's control what we have better and make sure that we're in good shape with any possible outsiders intruding before we, you know.
So on the
something.
emails, I just want to mention that I've emailed a couple times to the clerk, and I've suggested that we use a third party to send out, like the MailChimp or the Constant Contact, because that'll go from their server to, and we also can track the opening rates, and we could track the bounce back and get rid of those email addresses that are bouncing back, so that we're no longer emailing them anymore. And so it's a little bit more efficient if we're using that in general.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned it before. It's something to take a look at. But I think, yeah, right now.
There's no reason why we should be sending an e-blast from our email servers. That just doesn't happen anymore.
Okay, so any questions from the council with public safety?
I could just make a quick comment. It's Councilman Irvine. First, in terms of police pay and benefits, I would be making a recommendation that any surplus we have that we'd be looking at adding officers, I would like for us to look first, if possible, at it might be possible to do things like bonuses or additional benefits, including training, things like this. I know that as officers look to work in different municipalities, competitive benefit, competitive pay, culture, you know, the culture of the workday. Those are the three primary factors. So I would encourage us to look at possibly doing something like that for our existing officers. And I think we would actually see a residual benefit in that of the discussion and among the law enforcement community, saying, you know, hey, Portel's, you know, a great place. I know we have an excellent culture here with our new chief. So that's a huge benefit that we've had recently. And so I would just encourage us to look at what we might be able to do for existing officers first. I just say that. Then the other, I don't want to get in the weeds on the cyber issue, but I would just say quickly that we should be a small enough municipality that hopefully something like, you know, a multi-terabyte external hard drive might even be all the solution that we may potentially need in terms of backup and things like this. I know that as other municipalities have dealt with cyber ransomware, the challenge is that they don't have access to their own documents, files, and records. And so if we had access, I imagine, again, I don't want to get in the weeds on this discussion, but I imagine that that assessment will come back saying, hey, as long as you have access to a backup of your records, your downtime would be mitigated significantly. So I would just say that the fact that we are so small could make us a target because we're vulnerable, but at the same time could make us resilient because we might not need resources that a large municipality would need to have redundancy, things like this.
No, great point noted. I know that the opener for the, so the police officers are a union contract. It's a 3-year contract. It expires next year.
Okay.
So when the manager, the chief with the PBA union, and Officer Burrell is the union rep, they come together and they go through all that. They hash out the raises for the 3 years.
Okay.
I believe this year was 333, correct me if I'm wrong, 333. So then, you know, she'll duly noted, so when they go in for the reopener, they go in for the new year,
Okay.
that's when it's done.
Okay.
Okay, so
But
I
it could
think,
be so in terms of benefits for officers, if there's anything we'd be able to do in terms of training, things like that. My first reaction to the take-home program was no, because of the wear and tear on the vehicles, the cost. But then my second reaction was, well, that's a benefit that we can provide
yeah.
that would be incredibly, you know, beneficial to the well-being of our officers. So.
Yeah, I think there's, in the time that I've known the police officers, there's 3 things that they pretty consistent about asking for, and take-home car is one of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But having a solid written down program, which is what they've been working on, the
Right.
manager, take-home program, more money, and more officers on duty. So, hence, you know, the recommendation of adding one more officer to our payroll. And keep in mind that this is a residual expense, right? So,
Very good.
So in regards to the officer and the proposal, it's 35,500 for the salary, and then what's the benefits? So what's the total?
The total for an officer that who will earn $35,000 is going to be $54,000.
$54,000.
That's the benefits, the uniform, the car. You know, we're guesstimating about the car because we don't know exactly what that's going to cost. But there are some expenses that will well exceed that if we have an officer.
So we're looking basically at the entire 61 for one
And maybe a
officer.
little bit extra because of the car.
any other comments on public safety? All right, that takes us through the entire budget, so we can open it up for public comments. We're running right into good and welfare. So please state your name and address, speak loudly and clearly. And what I ask you is state everything that you like, you don't like, and duly noted, and if we need to, we'll answer. If not, we'll just make a count of everything you've asked.
Good evening, Liliana Fico, 181 Northwest 87th Street. I'm going to start from public affairs. I have a lot of questions. So I'm going to start back from public affairs. Council Roman mentioned It's a little, but it does add up. I absolutely agree. The League of Cities dinner at $5,000. Mayor Cabillas, I understand you mentioned it was out of your discretionary fund, but wouldn't you agree discretionary fund is also taxpayers' money?
Of course.
Okay. So you use a discretionary fund to pay that. What's the reason for that? Why were we a silver sponsor? Or why was Village of Apatala a silver sponsor?
Well, as Councilperson Mathis mentioned and Vice Mayor Nickerson mentioned, it was because I was being inducted as a president.
Okay. So would you like to, since you're being so generous with your discretionary fund, would you like to allocate some of that money for the next year's Easter? Because you guys have it at 0, and that's been one of the fabulous family events. We lived here for 5 years. This was the first time that it didn't happen. And my children, families, it was actually one of the most attended, family-attended events in the village. So would you be so generous and donate your discretionary fund $1,000 or $2,000, however much?
My entire discretionary fund every year goes to all the events. I don't use it for anything personal.
So
It's my personal.
you rather use it for the League of Cities this year than you wanted to use it because we didn't have the Easter event this year. All right, so now I'm going to start from the beginning.
Well, to add to that, the Easter was in March, so there are reasons. If you want to know why it didn't happen, you can just ask. We can tell you. I can tell you why.
Okay, so why didn't that happen? I did at one of the council meetings. Did they actually ask? And you guys, one of Councilperson Roman or yourself, mentioned that there was a bill that needed to be paid. I don't know. Would you like to clarify it, please?
There was a bill that needed to be
Okay,
paid.
thank you.
There was a bill to be paid.
Okay.
But the other factor is that has been just put it out in an email is that everything takes time from staff. And the events like, I agree with you, the events like the Easter that I brought back and the 4th of July, those are kind of like events that happen regularly, right? So one of the main things that we're having with the meeting, because we have a new chief, and I don't want to say you're new because you're not new, but a lot of this legwork was done before with our chief, Morales and Jason. A lot of that was done. They were on autopilot for a lot of the events, especially Easter, especially 4th of July. So literally time flew, nobody had done anything, and yeah, Bill had to get paid, but the reality is now we have a little bit of a better plan with our staff saying, hey, listen, when we know there's an event coming, we don't have to wait for council person to say, hey, we got to start working on it. We have to all be on autopilot, and we have to bring the chief up to speed as to how did we used to do things, and how are we going to do things as we move forward. Because the staple events like the 4th of July, like Easter, I mean, the police officers were like, one of them would go buy the eggs, and then I was sitting there stuffing with Chief Morales and Officer Gutierrez. Like, they were really involved in all the process. So we just have to figure that out because we have new players involved. That's really, time flew us and we had to pay a bill.
All right, so would you allocate your discretionary fund to the Easter next year?
Yes, I always do. I allocate it for every.
Okay, so that wouldn't be,
for-
Madam Manager, it wouldn't be a 0, right, for the Easter?
For the budget.
We just talked about public affairs and we all agreed that we're going to do more, and I doubt it's going to be 0
Okay.
when this is final.
Okay, perfect. All right, so back to the beginning. Code enforcement, why are we going to end at $70,000?
Talking for revenue,
Yes.
that's through the lien settlement, is ultimately why,
Oh, you're asking about the revenue, why it's a 70,000?
Yeah.
yes.
There was a dilapidated home on Northwest 91 Street, sorry, there was a dilapidated home that finally sold, and they paid a lien, and the manager negotiated to 60,000.
Hurricane Irma reimbursement, do we actually get the money? Okay.
We haven't gotten it yet, it's obligated. Well,
The reason that we're able to put 2.3 million is because that is what has been obligated by the state already to us.
Okay, and when are we going to receive that money?
I don't know the exact date yet, we're meeting and discussing.
Okay,
that.
does that have to go through other, sources, channels? Does the Miami-Dade County has to approve it, or we're just going to get a check from FEMA and that will be it?
I will find out in the meeting that we're having, the upcoming meeting, I don't know. who
When
else
is your
is-
meeting with them?
It's coming up, I don't know the actual date, I don't know.
Okay.
But we'll have a meeting.
Would you mind would I be able to send you an email to let me know when the meeting is so I can follow up regarding that? Okay, perfect. What do we get out of Ackerman lobbyist?
Well, in 2017, we got 550,000. They
Okay.
lobbied,
That was
they're
in
in
2017,
They're
okay.
in Tallahassee.
2018,
24/7.
2019, okay. So, we're gonna recommend it as 36, so we're gonna, okay. Let's see, my question marks. Oh, CFO, why, I think one of the council members did pose that question. Why were we gonna end up at 73,000?
They had to take on more responsibilities and they charge us for that for their contract.
Okay, and so you guys are gonna send out, or you're gonna send out a piece so we can hopefully change that. I don't even know why we're paying that much money to them. All right, telephone AT&T, that was discussed, that was clarified. So, village clerk salary, now, is village clerk a full-time?
Village clerk is an hourly employee. So what you see is based hourly when she's here.
Oh, okay, so it's an hourly employee. All right, so she's an hourly employee and she's getting, but she's full-time, right?
Her agreement is part-time, but she's an hourly employee. So we have to add for her time sheets, but basically when she's here, she's billing
Got
at the
it.
village.
So on the contract, it says that she's part-time, yet we're paying 25% of the FRS. Is that what typically is for part-timers?
We can confirm with the CFO, but yes.
Okay. Part-time is 30 hours? So is that, she fulfills 30 hours?
Part-time is 30 hours, but I want to say she puts in a little bit more than 30 hours around meeting times and things like that, yeah.
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
definitely, that's definitely.
I'd like to
part-time.
check on that FRS 25% for the part-timers at 30 hours a week. All right. I want to go to the attorney and the specialized attorney fee. Did I see that? So, last year, one of the residents, I believe, you were talking about how we're paying more for attorney this year. And Madam Mayor, you mentioned that Mr. Norma Powell is going to be an all-inclusive attorney, legal advisor for the village. Yet we paid, here it is, specialized other legal fees of, what is it, 20, let's see. We're gonna end at 30,000 projected. So far we paid 27,380. Okay, so if Mr. Norma Powell is all-inclusive village attorney, why are we paying other legal specialized fees at 27,380?
That's all
Actually,
Ronnie
30,
Health, that's all
sorry.
Ronnie Health Legal suing the village.
Okay,
When, the reason we decided to get an employment law attorney is because it's properly advised. We have been sued before and we've always lost because our internal village attorney was also doing it. It was best advised to go outside for employment law. And the employment law attorney, all that 27,380, which will probably go up, is the village being sued by the former Sergeant Huffman.
okay, so we've been sued before, obviously, but we never really paid $96,000 for an attorney.
I don't have those records on me, but if you go back to a budget, there is a specialized and other legal fee that was $27,000. That was basically
Yes, Mr.
Green
Geller,
Spoon Mayor.
and per CFO, last year when we all met around this time for budget, we've actually never paid over like $80,000, including the specialized legal fees as well.
but we've always lost.
So I'm also, kind of concerned about that budget?
Two things. Whenever the attorney was present, it was only at council meetings. The current attorney comes to every single committee meeting, council meeting, and the budget workshop, so we're factoring that in as well. Based on the hours that he's working, it's about $200 an hour that the attorney gets paid, in terms of like calculation of hours. But I can tell you, in my time here, I'm not saying nobody's perfect, but I would say probably 97.5% every meeting that we need the attorney, that he's there, which is something that, you know, we really needed. And it's not to say that our former attorney couldn't do a great job, he just wasn't available to do that job. And also, I think it's really important to note is that we're sort of a different village. I mean, we have a lot going on. We're sort of multifaceted with all the projects that we have going on. Like, you know, we are working 3 areas of development. That's going to take time, and it requires a lot of work from the attorney to be physically present and mentally present.
So we're being sued. What's going on with that?
We can't talk about that. That's legal.
Okay, so can you be able to?
It's ongoing. We can't talk
Okay.
about that.
All right. So as far as the money goes, it may be even more than 30,000?
What I can say is she was offered a generous settlement by the manager. I don't have the dollars amounts and I'm not allowed to say it, but she's rejected it, so it'll continue.
Got it. Let's see. I think that concludes everything. Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you. And Lillian Pico, Easter will be back.
Okay, super. Can't wait.
You can share it if you like.
I would love to.
Okay,
Good.
perfect.
Well, there you go.
Sandra Valencia, 8633 Northeast Miami Court. Going back to the last item that Liliana brought up, which is the expense of the attorney's fees. You were mentioning that it's because we need him constantly here for many things that are happening in the village. And this is like 3 times, if not 4 times smaller than the next door village. And the attorney there makes half of it. So I don't understand why are we still spending so much money on an attorney that is not giving us what we're supposed to get as an all-inclusive attorney services, and you're still making excuses for him to be here. I would like, to be honest, as a honest and seriously preoccupied resident here, to just, I don't know if I can just raise my hand and say, like, let's make a motion to actually throw out an RFP, a proper RFP out there for proper attorney services, because this is too expensive for what he does, to be honest. This is just too much. And I compare it to a bigger village that the attorney is most of the time and most of the weeks there. This guy isn't. And to be honest, I just do not agree with, you know, the whole board or the whole chair, commission just approving a $96,000 cost for us for an attorney that is not doing the proper job. That's all. Thanks.
Anybody else from Peter Walker?
It's been insightful. Dr. Lightfoot Ward, 415 North Passaic Terrace. Very insightful, extremely informative. Mayor, you talk a lot. Everybody else seems to be informed. Yeah, this was a workshop. It truly was. Do we have to record it?
Last year we did it, and former councilperson Old brought it to my attention about twice, so I asked the clerk to please record it because we're talking about money, and I thought it would be important to do so.
When you all sit on the dais, you don't feel like a part of this. We used to have it sat down on the floor because we're neighbors talking about our money. And it just feels like a council meeting rather than a workshop where we can really just talk and be part of it. Questions were not staged in the last 2 speakers. We just said hello, didn't we? That's all we said. We just had said hello. But you know, we are paying attention. I don't think a lot of people are going to agree, but they didn't show up. So our voices were heard tonight, and I thank you all.
No, duly noted. It was brought up before, as Dewey did in the forum on the floor, and we definitely will continue. Last year, we had a town hall for the budget, and every table was a department. And then the department chair would sit at every table. So we did that last year as a town hall. You know, time escaped me, I apologize, but I agree with you. When the clerk brought it up to me, it was, you know, a little late, but we definitely will have that, because literally what we did, Dr. Ward, and I don't think you came for that, there's 6 committees, there were 6 tables, and everyone had this exact budget. And they were able to dissect it, and then the manager went around, and I went around, and the council went around, but the chairs sat with the residents. So if public safety interests you, planning is, that's the table you sat at. So I really do believe that's something that was missed this year that we will definitely do next year. Because I think that town hall workshop was insightful, and everybody got to touch, play, write, and a lot of the comments that were made actually came to fruition. So I think that's also a really important process.
And because you did take July, and we did have the affair on Saturday, if it had been announced, we might have had more people. We might would have had more people. I don't know. You know, people are fickle. But we might have. This is right on it. It was right time that we're going to have this meeting. That's why I didn't forget it, because it was posted early enough for me to know to be here. But July 4th was a very grand event. 2 grand events, and people showed up from near and far. Thank you.
Got it. Duly noted.
I just have just one last comment, and is I'm appalled, and I have the last year and a half, I will say, for the attendance of the residents. It's not happening. This is embarrassing right now, and I think it's your job also to help the community to get together, and this is not happening. Because I see that when us as residents come to the podium to ask questions, nobody knows the answers. So I think that people are getting tired of not being replied properly. That we've been asked to send emails to the manager that we never get response from. And I can get just thousands, or probably not thousands, but hundreds of examples. So I think that we need to work together as a community to get the community here, because this is not happening. I wish that actually if you can show this to the public and see there is just only 4 residents right here at this meeting, which is a workshop supposedly to discuss the budget, which is important for all of us. And it's not happening. And I think that there's something there that is happening, and it's not helping the community to actually be excited about getting involved. Just my last comment. Thanks.
Mayor Cruz, if I may, I'd like to answer Ms.
It's not a
Pico's-
question.
No, not you. Ms.
Oh.
Pico.
Okay.
Anything over 30 hours is considered full-time. And also, the reason that I get paid at FRS, because I'm supposed to be at a senior level, so it's 25%, it's in my contract.
Okay.
So that's why it's like that.
Liliana Pico, 101 87th Street, thank you. Council Member Mathis, you mentioned something about a credit card. Does the village have a credit card? It does, okay. Are the statements public record?
Everything within the village is public.
Okay, thank you. And is discretionary fund invoices a public record as well?
Everything is.
Okay, so if I send an email to village manager, I can get like that information?
And let's be clear about one thing with regards to the discretionary funds.
Yes.
It has to be used for something that
Of course, I
benefits
understand
and
that.
showcases the village,
Correct,
so.
right, because it's taxpayers' money as well, of course, got it, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions?
I do have a question. John Mooney. Have we ever had an audit on the phone bill? This thing about an audit on the phone bill. Thank you. Cell and office.
We'll put that along with our vulnerability assessment that we're going to do.
Liliana Pico, 181 Northwest 87th Street. Village manager, Madam Manager, I understand in your contract there is a travel per diem. It's always been from my understanding. However, what is a local travel for the village manager? What does that include?
That's meetings.
Okay,
Meetings to.
okay, so it doesn't, this is
Are
the,
within the driving distance.
okay, so meeting, what type of meetings?
It could be board meetings, it could be events, activities, summits, I mean, whatever I'm invited to that benefits the village.
Yeah, we're paying allowance, 400.
Okay, so is that the, like when you have to pay for like a luncheon or something that involves the village matter? Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, before I adjourn, I'm going to close saying this. Because we up here, at least 5 of us, pay taxes as well. So I'm very mindful when I look at the budget. And I would like to believe that my colleagues, who also are property owners, some of us have more than one property, some of us pay more than $22,000 a year in property taxes, are very mindful about where the money is going. So I know that residents come up, but we are residents, we are taxpayers. So it would behoove me to think that my constituents and because they are constituents, and my colleagues up here would not have that same consideration as if they were managing their own budget. So with that said, I get a motion to adjourn.
I'll move German.
Motion been made by Councilperson Mathis. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilperson Rowland. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All in favor? Any nays? Hearing none, the budget workshop adjourns at 9:01 p.m. Hey guys, you did a good job.